Good evening. The Concord Township Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for March 13th is now in session. I would like to introduce my board. To my far left is Skip Sweeney and Brian Falkowski. I'm Ivan Valentik, your board chair. And to my right is Todd Goling, and our far right is Heather Freeman, our zoning inspector. Under the advice of our legal counsel, we ask that anyone speaking tonight must be sworn in. If you plan on speaking, please stand and raise your right hand at this time. Do you? Sorry. Yeah, please, if there's a chance you plan on speaking, just please be sworn in now. That will help the meeting go along quicker. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help me God. If so, say I do. Thank you. Please be seated. This evening, when presenting your case or commenting, you have to come up to the microphone and state your name and address, and please confirm that you've been sworn in. Heather, were the legal notices published in a timely manner?
Yes, they were.
Okay, great, thank you. This evening, we have 2 items on our old business and 1 new item. So first will be our old business, and a 3-vote majority is required to either approve or deny any variance or appeal this evening. As you can see, we have 4 board members this evening. We usually have 5, but a 3-vote majority is still required for approval of your variance or appeal. Okay, so please, again, come to the microphone. The first person I'm going to ask up is Todd Victor with our old business. If you could please come up for me for 1 second. Please state your name and address and then confirm you've been sworn in.
Todd Victor, 20 Alberta Road, Paynesville, and I've been sworn in.
Mr. Victor, I just want to ask really quickly, would you like to proceed with your variance application first, which is, my understanding is for only variance application area, the variance from the 25-foot setback, and then do the conditional use permit second?
Yes, we that's how we would like to do it.
Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to read it in for the record, okay?
Okay.
So variance application 2023-142, Ralph Victor Construction, Inc. is requesting the following variance of the property located at the corner of Crowell Road and Hunting Lake Drive, parcel number 08-A-020-C-00-002-0. So the variance from the minimum 25-foot requirement of natural vegetation to be left undisturbed pursuant to the perimeter treatment narrative included as part of the master development plan for the Quail Hollow property for Quail Hollow Development, Inc., and approved by the Concord Township Board of Trustees with an effective date of October 8th, 1986, as part of the rezoning of 540 acres surrounding Quail Hollow Inn from R1 residential to R2 plain view development. If you would please go ahead and present your variance request for that setback of the trees.
Put this up there. First, I would like to give the board the copies of a letter that we've got from one of the homeowners and from Lake County engineers, and the sign that we've had up since before any houses were built back there.
Okay, can you just tell us for the record, one at a time, what you are so we can get it into the record and what?
Page 1 is a letter from Christina Tucci in support of our building. Page 2 is the letter from Lake County engineers for the entranceways.
Okay.
And then page 3 is a picture of the sign that we've had up for commercial property before any houses were ever built back behind there.
Okay, and do you have copies for everyone on the board and for
Yes.
Heather? And please do your best to stay as close to the microphone as you can.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just so everyone in the room knows, the microphone is not for the room itself, it's actually for the video, and that's why it's not loud. So you just have to speak up.
I also have a petition with 25 signatures I'd like you guys to look at too. In support of our.
So there's a letter from, again, just just want to state that you stated it, that there's from a Christina Tucci who's in favor of the development.
Right.
And then,
And I also have 25 signatures in support of it also.
okay. And then, Tracy from the county engineer's office reviewed your plan.
Right. And she,
So it meets the current access standards, maintenance standards.
right. They would not,
But it's not final approval. I mean, you still need to submit the final plans for final approval.
correct, after we get approvals.
Okay. And then
After we
there's-
get the board, if we get the board approval, then we can draw our plans up and get everything submitted like we need to submit. to
Okay,
All the right
yes.
places.
And the signatures you provided, the 25 signatures, are these all residents of Concord?
Yes,
And are they near the project site?
most of them are, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Most of them are right behind the water tower.
Okay. Thank you.
Possible to share that list?
There's no commenting, again, from anyone out until you're up at the stand. Thank you.
And I could have gotten more, but I ran out of time. That's only 5 days of getting signatures.
Okay. Well, we'll continue to share that. Is there any questions on the documentation from the board that we just received? No? Okay, continue.
Okay, so the reason why we want to do the 25-foot buffer variance first is because if you approve that, then we don't need any other variances request.
Okay,
So the only place that the 25-foot buffer would come into play is the north side of the property, butting up against the other commercial piece here. And we still would leave a 10-foot side yard requirement there for the building. We wouldn't have any parking lot any closer than 10 feet or any building. As this property is, the zoning allows him to go 10 feet from the property line also on his property.
he's allowed to clear within 10 feet, but,
No, he can clear right up to the property line as we're requesting to clear up to the property line, but no parking lot or building would be any closer than 10 feet.
and that's the only place you're looking for the variances, the 25-foot buffer variances for that side only?
Right. That's the only place where it would come into play.
That's the only applicable area is on that north side?
Right.
And Heather, what is that property zoned? It's not in the PUD, correct?
The property directly to the north owned by the Lazuka is zoned Capital District, which is
Capital
not part of the PUD, correct?
And they're allowed 10 feet from the property line like we're requesting.
That's true.
Okay. And then, so why do you need, I mean, why not just leave the 25-foot buffer?
To meet the parking lot requirement, we would need that 25 feet.
Is that the only thing that's driving it, is just so you can have enough parking for the
For the,
commercial?
right.
Without it, how short are you of meeting the parking requirement?
Well, we have 86 spaces. I mean, we are required for 86 spaces with the way that it's set up now. And we have 94. That's hard to answer. We didn't, I think we're short probably 20 spaces.
But those are
somewhere around
land,
there.
those are land bank also. You're trying to land bank, or are you gonna build those?
No, we would build those, so we would meet, so we wouldn't ask for any parking variance
For the last,
as we were asking before.
for the last
Yeah.
time they were here, it was either 53 or 57 spaces they came in with. And in order to meet close to the mandatory minimum, I think that's why the variance is requested.
Yeah, Yeah, I remember
if you
that.
remember, yeah.
And
Yeah.
the PUD requires a half a spot more than the B1 district.
Yeah, so my question,
Also-
I guess my follow-up on the parking, and I'll give it to the board too to ask is, how much, based on the use, not the zoning, how much parking do you think you need? Because a lot of times,
86 spaces.
that's what you, based on the size of the restaurant you propose in the office?
Right.
You
the-
think you
and the
need
rest-
86?
Yeah, and the buildings might, I mean, that's just what we can do, but the building may be smaller than that, the restaurant building, depending on what goes in there. It could be a bank, it could be a restaurant. I mean, we don't have anybody that wants it right now, but we want to market it as that.
Is it a
Right now.
spec build?
Pardon?
Is it a spec build? Just you're just gonna put a building up and hope someone moves in, or?
We would not build that building till we have a tenant. This one.
Got it.
Yeah. I don't know, I'm struggling with, I still don't really know why, I'm looking for a reason why we should, give you a variance on the buffer besides parking. I mean,
Well,
you don't know still how big things are, and,
well, the piece next to us can build 10 feet to our property line. I mean, this isn't gonna, we're just requesting the same thing that they're allowed to do. And on the other piece, on the other side, the drug mart put their parking lot right up to our property line.
and are you thinking you're gonna landscape that 10-foot strip, or is it just turf? Or is there a screening requirement? Or are you leaving trees in that 10-foot? You said,
Well, we have to grade. You have to
Yeah.
be able to grade correctly. That's another reason why we need it. We need to be able to grade all the property correctly so it drains correct.
so are you gonna,
You can't-
will there be a landscape buffer in there when you're done?
When we're done, we can put some landscaping there.
All right, you guys
As
have any-
long,
Not at this time.
All of the spaces that are on the north side that we've been speaking of, if you didn't get the variance, would those spaces even fit?
these,
Yeah, all those along that line there.
no, those wouldn't fit.
So you have to have that in order to fit those spaces in there.
Right, as this plan is drawn, we would, and then we wouldn't request any parking variance. We would remove all that.
So how big is this, Heather, how big is this parcel again? Mr. Victor, how big is your parcel here?
Acreage wise, we don't have it on here. I'd have to ask the engineer on that.
It's
2.5 or something.
2.67.
2.67?
acres, yeah.
Okay. And then how many acres is the Lazuka property? Do we know?
I don't think we know that offhand.
I don't know, I was just curious.
I mean, the zoning all around us is a 10-foot side yard.
So with
And that's
those,
all we're asking for.
so with the spaces that you could put in, if we approved the variance from 25 to 10 feet, what does that bring the total spaces to that you'd have available to you? Approximately.
Well, it's on here, 94.
Okay. So as represented in this amended app here, there's
4 spaces.
94 spaces with, because I'm not going to count them.
And we're required 86, so we have an extra 8.
But it could change too once this
Right.
this isn't the final site plan.
Well,
Right.
Right, it
Yeah.
most likely would go down on the required spaces. We're only allowed to put, there's certain uses of the PUD of businesses. And we would only allow to be putting those businesses in there that are allowed. And each business, of course, would have to get a permit from Concord. Also, way at the beginning of this, a few years before we started High Grove, Concord came to us and wanted us to put it in the JED because they knew it was commercial. So we did that for Concord.
So this development you're proposing here and the one on both sides of the street will, once developed, they're in part of the JED, but once they start, generating revenue, you'll be contributing more to the JED.
Right.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Chair, is there any way that we can all speak up? I think the court reporter's having a pretty tough time getting everyone's comments down.
Okay.
So this piece and the one across the street, we put into the JED at the request of Concord.
So you're looking for a variance to be able to put parking in that 25-foot setback area that was supposed to be tree buffer. You'll grade right up to the property line, but you'll keep a 10-foot, we'll call it landscape area,
Right.
correct?
We're on our other side, the Drug Mart put their parking lot right to our property line.
Yeah, but they were allowed to do that also,
I don't know how, but they did.
or near the property line. They have a different
Right.
setback. That's not what we're here to really.
Right.
Todd, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I like to talk things through and just try to check my understanding. So the as yet to be built or occupied building that's set to be a restaurant of some sort right there in the lower left-hand corner, right? If that, let's say, there's no plan, there's no one's gonna move in, right now we'll just say Dunkin', I know it's not Dunkin', just say there's a Dunkin' Donuts that really wants to go there. When we had Chipotle come in many years ago, they came in with a plan, they're like, we're the Chipotle people, we have the landscaping plan, the parking plan, we had some things about the parking spaces we had to do with Chipotle, here's what the building's gonna look like, we're gonna build it, boom, we approve it. We went through, and now you've got Chipotle there. But here, what I'm struggling with is we don't have anything there. So, refresh me again. What's in the second building, the big rectangular building to the left of it, the right of it? I'm sorry. Yeah.
Office.
That one.
Yeah, this is office and retail.
Was that gonna? And again, I'm just going off my memory here. Was that gonna be your
Our office.
your office's building?
Right.
So let's play worst case scenario. Let's say nobody ever moves into that front food restaurant place. Then you'll have 96 parking spots for your office building, which will have what, 5 people?
We have 3 employees.
All right, so we'll say 5 cars at the
Yeah,
most. So
but
so I'm trying to understand. What if that building for 5 people comes down about a third? Then you can squish all those parking spots down, and then you wouldn't have to worry about the variance there. Meaning that I'm trying to understand what's the big building for? Because that kind of plays into the whole little building and the parking spot thing.
Well, we're gonna have 2 or 3 more areas where people could put a store or whatever they.
Storefronts in addition to you're only going to occupy part of the building.
Right.
The whole thing isn't yours.
There's still, we're taking about 5,000 square feet, so there's about another 8,500 square feet for retail, or we're talking to a Pilates business right now.
I understand. Okay.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Victor. So what you're trying to do is you don't know, your office is going there. You don't know exactly everything else that's going in.
Right,
there.
just like any other strip.
Just let me finish.
Yeah.
So you then tell me where I'm wrong. So you're trying to essentially try to maximize your development footprint for this property, so you have flexibility to be able to come in later with the final plan of what you want to do. And what I'm hearing is the buffer area, which is 25 feet, you would like to get that reduced so you have more flexibility with your development footprint. And your argument, maybe, I don't know if it's a right argument, but that's the same requirement on the other side and that other side, but they're in a different zoning district. Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay.
And to be able to market it to people, we got to be able to tell them what they can and can't do.
Right. So
I mean-
I'm just, yeah. And so
Right.
if we say we don't approve the 25-foot setback, I mean, you would then have to market it and lay it out differently without that in there, maybe make some changes. I don't know what, I'm just saying that's what you'd have to go back to do if we didn't approve that, this part of the variance, right? You just have to revisit the site plan or do something differently.
Correct.
To try to fit everything and maximize your development footprint.
Right.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I just encourage the board to just think about, this variance
And-
request.
and any-
the Duncan factors too.
Any business that comes in has to get the permit still.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. I mean, for us, it is, I don't know, I struggle, is it substantial because you're asking for the whole thing, the 25 feet. You're not keeping like 10 feet or 5 feet of trees, you're asking for the whole thing. So it feels substantial, but at the same time, to your point, I get where you're coming from, they don't have the same requirement, so they're gonna clear
Right.
right up there, potentially, we don't know.
right, everybody around us has the 10 feet.
But I feel like it could be
And when-
still solved. over
When you
time.
open a woods up, there's hardly anything along there anyway in that 25 foot, and they're half dead now. And then when we open it up and do all the excavation around them, all the edge trees die anyway. Just like,
But I'm assuming you knew that you were gonna have to deal with this, that, 25-foot buffer at some point, right? Like, you knew that was one of the requirements for that parcel.
pardon?
You knew that the 25-foot tree buffer was part of the requirements of the parcel.
Well, we went through it on the other property. That's when
It came up.
it was never enforced until our last development.
You guys have any other questions? Again, we're gonna get to the conditional use stuff, but anything else on this variance request?
Yeah, Todd both of you brought up good points. I mean, we're like this plan that you have with all these spots, parking spots, and this like non-existent food establishment. I mean, this could all change tomorrow. Like, you get somebody comes in, says, "I want to do this." You'd be like, "Great." Then there's a potential that you're going to come back in front of us again for possibly a completely different variance. I mean, that could happen. That's a very real possibility, isn't it?
Well, if someone wanted to put a drive-through on that building, I guess they would come back here.
Well, what if it's just an establishment what if it's just a great opportunity for you and for the person, and it's not a food establishment, it's something else, and that could happen. And then we will already have gone through this with you, and we've approved this. I mean, you don't have
Yeah, but-
anybody moving in there, is what I'm telling you.
I know, well, just every strip.
So you don't even know that you need 86 spots.
Every strip center out there puts in you have a main tenant, and then you have the other units off the building
Right.
that rent out. So, like Drug Mart, they had all those outbuilding next to the Drug Mart to
Right.
rent out.
Same type of setup.
And
Yeah.
they don't rent those units. They build the building and then try and lease them out.
Right.
We're the main anchor for our offices, and we're going to try and lease out the rest of it.
Right. and you really don't care what goes in there, but, and I just want to kind of get your thinking here. You're trying to get as many spots as you can on
Right.
this property, period.
And that's what I was saying. He's trying to maximize the development, the buildable area of this parcel.
Right.
Which, to do that, that's what this variance is about, correct? The 25-foot reduction in
Right.
setback.
But to do that, this lot is you're taking 6 pounds of dirt and putting it in a 4-pound bag. It just looks like that it's like right on the precipice of, you kind of could squeeze it, but as it sets, so like if it was just the main anchor, the building with his office and the yoga studio, whatever next to it, then everything would fit swell. But with the extra one, and of course I understand the maximizing the profitability of the land. It makes sense to me that that's the goal. But as it sets, we've got, I don't know how many spots are along. How many are there in the top on the north side? Looks like 15, 20. I'm
There's-
sorry.
I think it says 29.
Yeah, just on the north side by Lazuka's property. So whatever, we'll call it 20. So we got 20 spots
29.
that's what this is about right now. And it's quite
29.
substantial, and,
Yeah,
and that's where
29.
we're getting the 6 pounds of dirt in a 4-pound bag. It's just we're trying to squish it in there.
So you can fit your drives building, you just need it for additional parking.
For additional
potential.
parking.
Potentially,
For the potential of the front tenant.
or for any of it.
Well,
Yeah,
regardless, we want to get, no matter what we do here, we want to get rid of the 25-foot buffer because it's not needed. All the property around us has the zoning where they're allowed to be 10 feet from the property line. That's all we're asking for. I mean, regardless of what we do here, we would like to get rid of that 25-foot buffer.
And it's only to the north side again.
Yeah, it's only to the north side, butting up against the other commercial.
Okay.
Any questions? Brian? Before we move on?
No, I think I'm okay for right now.
Anything else?
No, I'm just looking. Go ahead.
Anything else that I had, Mr. Victor, before we, on the variance for the vegetated buffer?
No,
Okay,
nothing else.
you can be seated. We'll let you know if we need you to come back
All
up.
right. Thanks.
All right. I'm gonna first ask if there's any, again, what we're discussing now is only the 25-foot vegetated buffer variance. So I'm gonna just ask first if anyone for approving the variance, reducing the 25-foot buffer would like to come up first and speak to that. If anybody for the variance of reducing the 25-foot buffer would like to come up, I'd like to see if anyone would come up for that first.
Hello, Tom Hackman. I live in Concord, 10095 Stone Hollow Road.
You've been sworn in, sir?
Yes, sir. I mean, I've been doing this stuff for a long time, and property is so valuable right now. That little area is not, like Todd said, those trees are gonna die anyway. I mean, I've been an excavator my whole life.
Yep.
So, I mean, he's a very reputable builder and developer. I don't see no problem with what he's trying to do. Like he said, you put his place in there first, and then you get the renters come in later. He doesn't know, I don't think he knows anyway, what's going in there.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're gonna let others come up. Again, if somebody said something that if somebody said something, try not to repeat it. You know, we have more to discuss this evening. But again, you can come up and present whatever you want. But we're only focused on the vegetated buffer right now. That's what we're voting on, and then we're gonna get to the conditional use permit. So I'm gonna ask if we could just, again, confirm you've been sworn in, state your name and address for the record. We could start on this side, kind of start in the front, work our way back, and then we'll go to the other side. If you wanna just, again, focus the discussion around the vegetated buffer, so.
I'm Dan Barron. I live at 7895 Hunting Lake, and I was sworn in. I want to express my opposition to Mr. Victor's request for the variance for a couple of reasons. First, given that Mr. Victor owned all the land immediately east of this property, this is largely a problem of his own making. This is the lot he left himself with by developing the adjacent property. Let's see, the stuff only related to this. He doesn't face any real hardship developing this without the variance. He's simply trying to cram too much building onto this lot space. Eliminating the second building or making a smaller office and retail solves his need for adequate parking. He's simply trying to put too many structures onto the building or onto what that lot allows. I think that's all I can say. I have other concerns, but if I hear you right.
Just focus on the buffer right now.
Well, I'm going to start. I won't be offended if you cut me off. I'm confused about a 5,000 square foot office for 4 people and garage doors. Given that initially Mr. Victor said he wanted to build a warehouse, is he building a warehouse and calling it something different? 5,000 square feet for an office for 4 people. That's a pretty nice office. 8,000 that is also retail or other with garage doors. How much covered space is accessible to garage doors? My big issue with the whole project is we're going to have construction equipment and storage in a warehouse there.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
My notes were like all together because I didn't know we were going to do this separate. But I was able to review the January 10th meeting, and I really have to.
Excuse me, you're.
Oh, I'm sorry. Karen Kincaid, 7894 Hunting Lake.
I'm sorry, say it again, please.
Karen Kincaid, 7894 Hunting Lake. And I was sworn in. Right? That's it?
Yes.
Okay. After looking at that January 10th meeting, I have to say that I feel like this is all deja vu. The only thing that he's changed is making the restaurant bigger. I'll try to find my notes and separate them through. As stated in the January meeting, this plan is not a true representation of what he wants, regardless of how many times he's redrawn it. All other concerns from January are still valid, and I don't feel that Mr. Victor listened or has considered any of the residents' feedback. What happens when the restaurant is built, and what about the restaurant that's going to be on the, is the traffic problem?
We're just talking about the buffer, so I mean.
The buffer, okay.
We're just we just want to hear your opinion.
Okay.
If you're for or against the buffer.
I'm against
and that's that's the only thing we're voting on right now.
Okay,
So.
the BZA already cited concerns with the land banked parking. He was misinformed that the parking was not based on what goes in there, but the total square footage. What safety issues arise at having to park where people have to cross a road, and that was one of the staff's concerns, having to cross a road and coming from behind an office building. He's got 17 spaces behind the office building. Or will people just decide to park on Hunting Lake, creating more of a hazardous situation for the entrance on Hunting Lake? I think he's asking for the vegetation variance because he needs it for the space for what he's trying to cram into too small of a space. Todd took my saying. My father-in-law, who was an old minister and coal miner from West Virginia, always used to say, you can't take 10 pounds of crap and cram it into a 5-pound bag. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. I think he needs to make his buildings to fit into the piece of land that he has. And if he does that, he won't need the variance. He won't have to have all these parking spaces. And that's all I've got on that piece.
Thank you. Who's next?
Me. Hi, Maria Minardo, 7895 Hunting Lake Drive, and I have been sworn in. couple of things I just want to ask and point out here. Mr. Victor is saying the lot next to him is zoned differently, and therefore they don't have to keep that variance for the trees. Therefore, he shouldn't have to either. And I find that a crazy statement, because where do you stop that? You know, where do you say, well, we're zoned one thing, you're zoned a different thing, I want the same rules as you? That's not how this works. Zoning is here for a reason. That's my first thing. Second thing is, I know the trees might die. We're all gonna die. I just don't want it to be now. So I think that's kind of a really bad argument for taking down these trees. The third thing, and you can stop me here, I don't understand how you can ask for a variance for a permit that you haven't received yet. Maybe you could explain that to me. He's gonna come in looking for a variance against what he has approved to build, but he doesn't have anything approved to build yet, because the first thing we're doing is giving him a pass. And I don't understand that.
I don't know if legal counsel or Heather would help us to,
How does that work?
but you can ask for a variance before you build anything, is my understanding, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, at any time an applicant can request a variance. Typically, you know, with commercial development such as this, you know, it might be requested prior to going in front of the zoning commission for full plan approval. So the plan approval doesn't stop tonight, you know, depending on what happens with this variance and the subsequent conditional use permit. Mr. Victor and his team will have to submit full engineered civil drawings and architectural plans to our Township Zoning Commission for review and approval. Those plans also get approved by other county agencies. So this is really a preliminary plan. This is not the final version. It's not been fully engineered. It's a concept. And so in order to spend money and do full improvement plans, they need to know whether or not the township's going to be okay with the variance.
Can they take the variance permission away once it's been, I mean, like once the trees are down and once these put in a phase one, because this is a two-phase plan, once you agree to part one of this and then part two never happens, it's too late.
Yeah, that does, yeah, I don't think it makes sense to take anything away. I don't think it would make sense to take it away. I mean, at that point, to your point, and what Todd said, I mean, if they get this, when they go to do the project, they're gonna incorporate, use it.
So
right
I've
away.
misunderstood how this process works. First, you get a conditional use permit, and then you try to get a variance to find out what you actually are gonna need, because now you have to tweak it a little. That's not how this is gonna go. First, you get a variance, and then you get a conditional use permit?
There's, tell me if I'm wrong, they're separate items. I mean, the variance, anyone can get a variance for any property. The conditional use permit is specific for the use of what he can do on the property and allowing them, because it's in the PUD, these uses are allowed, but they have to get a conditional use permit. The variance is separate. If we either approve or don't approve the variance, it doesn't change anything on the conditional use permit. That's a separate topic. And that'll be approved separately in our next agenda item.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
You want to go?
Yeah, let's let this side finish up.
Nanette Horvath and 11263 High Grove.
Did you get that?
Okay. All my concerns are safety concerns. So are you?
We're gonna talk about that, and we're gonna talk about the conditional use permit and the site and all the safety concerns on the next agenda item. Right now, we're focused on the buffer. So if you
Okay,
wanna
and
wait,
the next agenda item
Yes.
is today
yes.
also?
Yep.
Let me just sit down and I'll come back later.
Can't wait to see you. Who's next? Anyone else on this side that'd like to come up before we flip over?
I'm allowed to come up afterwards if you flip it.
Yeah, I'll give you, yep. Who wants to come up first over here? Anyone?
All right, let's go. I'll do it.
He's ready, all right.
All right. You should be able to hear me. All right. My name's Dave Hall.
I live at 7806 Hunting Lake, and I am going to discuss the variance, and the variance only, talking to you guys. I oppose the variance. I do not want it in there. Multiple reasons. One, let's go with the first one that's probably not the most important, but aesthetics. We talk about putting up a parking lot everywhere and destroying trees and destroying the way we look. It was brought up multiple times in January about how we don't want Concord to change. We don't want it to look like Menor Avenue. So when you put parking lot to parking lot and you are just having a little 10-foot buffer in between there, the aesthetics of it just look like a big old strip mall. All right. The second part of it is I live behind there in Hunting Lake. We have already issues with noise from 44 and Cryle Road. So therefore, you cut down more trees, we're bringing more noise pollution to our area. All right. Got a little baby. Probably can't hear it, but you know what? I can when I'm on my back porch trying to relax with some trees around me. And that's why I don't want it cut down. But I oppose it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Denise Cinito, 7874 Fox. Denise Cinito, 7874 Fox Hunter Lane, Highgrove. So I'm actually speaking on behalf of Mr. Chris Lazuka. He's not able to be here. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So he is regarding the variance application 2023-142. He is the trustee for the property parcel 08A0200000190, which is on the northern border of the property owned by Ralph Victor Construction. He says, to approve these would be disruptive to residents, namely Highgrove, who are very much connected to that property. It seems quite unfair that an entire neighborhood would have a portion of it turned into a noisier and possibly less safe area. When they moved there, they were under the expectation that the commercial uses for that property would remain as it currently is. The setback elimination being requested on this property mirrors that which was approved for their Ivy Ridge project last year. That variance was granted under Ralph Victor Construction's threat of a higher density development. They do not have that leverage here. So I would ask the BZA, what is Concord's gain for granting this in the face of its residents' objections? Why can't Ralph Victor Construction simply make the most out of its current commercial zoning? I respectfully ask that you deny this, application. Mr. Chris Lazuka.
Thank you.
My name is Linda Bensick, and I live at 7838 Hunting Lake Drive, and I have been sworn in. It's a little unnerving because we come with these prepared papers, and then when the order changes, we have to throw them and kind of go on the fly. But I did want to agree with Mr. Goling, and actually it was stated in, I went over the transcript of the last meeting, and Ms. Garkar stated that I feel there is a lot pushed into a very small piece of property, and so we're all in agreement of that today. The office building hasn't changed, but the restaurant has grown bigger. Now, I just heard Mr. Victor say that in the future he could put a drive-through in there, which if you look at the plans, all he really did was push that over, and the space is exactly the same as the original plans.
Can I just clarify one thing? He cannot come in and just put in a drive-through. Again, a drive-through is not allowed in this area. So if they would wanted to come in and request the drive-through, that could happen, but that would be a separate variance request.
And I understand that,
just
but
wanted
what
to-
I'm saying is the plans as drawn leave that opportunity open.
Yes.
Because he's preserving that space. If you look at it, the curve, even with this little dining area here, the curve is just the same as the drive-through is. So there was very little change in the actual plans. So that is a future concern. The other concern, you mentioned Chipotle. These parking spaces are next to a street. I think that parking lot at Chipotle where those cars come out and there's a street right there, that's extremely dangerous. It's like, I don't know how that got past zoning, but I guess because Chipotle came in and they were all prepared, that probably helped it out. But so my objection is that there's just too much going on, and this potential for this future proposal for a drive-through, which is not approved in the R2s. And so really what I think a lot of us are asking is just stick with what the zoning is, because I said this last time, I'm going to say it again. We want you to follow the guidelines, because it says the stated purpose of zoning is the restriction on the limited use of land by the owner, and it must be reasonable and or protect the public health and safety. I don't think this does either, so I am not in favor of it. Oh, one more thing. And just, there was something said in the last meeting about this being zoned commercial, and Ms. Freeman corrected him. And I mean, the zoning map clearly shows that it's the R2 designation. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Heather, can we just clarify for everybody, it's an R2 PUD, correct?
Yes.
And which allows for office, certain uses, office, restaurants, some retail, correct?
Right.
With a conditional use permit.
That is correct.
Okay. So say it again, and hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Okay, who's next?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sandra Gardner, 11205 Sire Court. I am definitely opposed to taking trees down. I'm like Maria, they're all gonna die sometime, but not right now. My husband and I live right along the trees that are there now. I can see out onto Cryle just in the wintertime because of the leaves being down. So when all those, they talk about, there'll be some trees left. I don't think so, because once it gets started, they're coming down. I can already see over to the creamery, to the car wash there, and I kind of look at it like it's the illegals coming over the border, because we don't know who's going to be coming in, who's going to say, oh, I didn't know that neighborhood was back there. Let's go look around. I think house break-ins are going to increase, maybe car break-ins. I don't know, but that's what we don't know. When we moved in, Hunting Lake didn't go all the way through. That in itself has increased the traffic coming through there. I used to be able to just drive out onto Cryle with hardly looking. Now, I tried to get out the other day, there was like 10 cars coming, and so that's only going to increase. But I really object to the trees coming down. That provides some protection for us, and if that's gone, we have no protection.
All right, thank you.
My name is Mike Strachke. I live at 7815 Hunting Lake Drive, and I have been sworn in. Trees seem to be a popular topic for this first segment, and I'm definitely opposed to putting down those trees. I've spent a lot of my time over the years, many years, in wildlife conservation. And yes, the trees are going to die. There's no doubt about that.
We know that for sure.
Environmentally, but we done any environmental studies on the impact of clearing those trees?
Has that study been done?
Yeah.
I would imagine no, but we can ask Mr. Victor that.
And the reason I say that is because I'm an avid birder in this area here. And I would tell you, dead trees or dying trees is not necessarily a bad thing for birds.
Please direct everything up here.
It's not necessarily a bad thing for birds, and I'll tell you why. There are six different species of woodpeckers in that section that we're talking about right now. If you clear those trees, that's going to have a detrimental impact on them. And overall, I don't want to go too far with this, but it's these birds that help insect populations to reduce. Mosquitoes or whatever little irritants are out there. That's what the birds do. They're very vital to our environment. So I'm opposed to it. I would like to know if there's an environmental study done, because I can't see going forward without having some type of study like that. It is going to make a major impact on the landscape and the ecology of that area.
Okay,
That's all I got.
thank you.
Was
Just be safe.
fly a little bit further south.
Please, just, let's hold the commentary. We don't need-
I was talking to my friend.
Okay, again, please, no comments. Mr. Victor, can you come up for a second? I have a question for you. I'm assuming you haven't, from an environmental standpoint, you haven't done anything, you're trying to, or have you done like a wetland delineation?
That's all been done when we did High Grove. Everything's been done.
So you've done a wetland delineation?
Right.
Okay.
And if you drove back there on the easement for the water tower, there is hardly any good trees along that whole strip from 25 feet back.
Okay.
They're over half of them are dead already.
I understand.
And-
Yeah, just wanted to see
Alright.
if there's anything done. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, come on, sir.
Mark Collins, 7899 Fox Hunter Lane.
You've been sworn in.
I've been sworn in. And I do want to thank everybody for their opinions. I do value everybody's opinion. And all those trees come down are direct at my front door. It's beautiful fall foliage, some of the prettiest trees we have actually in the area. Beautiful, brilliant red. I'm not opposed to the variance. My thoughts are, one of your arguments tonight was that if I'm zoned a certain way, that just give me the opportunity to be equal. I think we all should be equal, just my honest opinion. I didn't think that was a good valid argument. My thought is, if that commercial property just to the north is allowed to have that 10-foot, I think Mr. Victor should as well. Gentleman, about the trees, see him walking his dog all the time. I understand the idea of trees, don't want to take them down, but every one of us in this development, this neighborhood, we took trees down to build our houses. As far as the ecology, there are definitely designated wetland areas over there on the golf course, through the golf course, that they can't develop. They're not being developed. I live right next to one of those wetlands. Again, I don't see that being an issue. One more thing, I'm sorry. The one comment was as far as it being unfair to zone it differently than it was previously zoned. The bottom line is we've all, again, built in the neighborhood. We've all driven by the sign that indicated just that. The villas, the Pulte development, that front property was going to be developed. I don't know why we're here.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anybody else on this side that we didn't get to that'd like to come up to speak for or against this appeal? Okay. Are there any other further comments about the vegetated buffer? Would anyone like to come up and present?
Two comments maybe. I had a tree fall on my house during.
Is this about the buffer or?
Well, it's about the vegetation and the trees are dead and everything.
Okay.
I had
Excuse me, can you please state your name for the record again?
Karen Kincaid, 7894 Hunting Lake Drive. And I've been sworn in. I had two arborists come to my house, and they said that the trees, a lot of them are, he said probably all of the trees in that area are probably all hollowed out, but that doesn't mean that they're dead, and that doesn't mean that they're gonna fall down in the next couple of years, that they have a lot of life in them. And that's from two arborists. The only other thing I want to say is my research shows a variance may be granted only if the applicant demonstrates that a hardship unique to the property prevents the use of the property as it is zoned, or the result of a practical difficulty in meeting the requirements of the resolution. The only hardship that I see here is that it doesn't fit his needs.
Okay, thank you.
Joanne Kortnick, 11220 Quail Hollow Drive. I am not opposed to the variance.
And you've been sworn in?
Yes, sir, I have.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not opposed to the variance from the time before High Grove was built or before Hunting Lake was connected. It has always, there's been a sign out there stating that there was commercial property. I've been in the hunt club for over 20 years. And as someone who moved out here and has watched Concord change, I think it's changed for the better. And I have absolutely no problem with more commercial properties or room to add businesses that can be walked to. that add to our neighborhoods. I don't think that they're taking away from our neighborhoods at all. I personally have stayed because of the growth that has come. So I'm not opposed to the variance, and the sign's been posted for 10, 15 years. This isn't new. And we're talking about 15 feet. Like that may or may not make a difference in the businesses that are choosing to go there. So it may be me. I'm saying if it were me looking for a parcel to add a new business, more parking would be what I was looking for to add to it.
Okay, thank you.
We have one more.
Let's let this gentleman come up.
My name is Ben Ridge, and I live at 11260 Whale Hollow Drive, and I have been sworn in. I am for the variance, a couple reasons. One, I just think from a small business standpoint, having this variance and having that parking and then being able to take that plan to a potential business makes a lot more sense. It's easier to sell when you have a complete parking spot rather than going in and saying, hey, we didn't get this variance, we're a little bit smaller, can you fit in here? It's not to say that that's what's going to happen, but I think it's a lot easier. The second thing I would say, and I'll be brief, is just the Victor family has been an important part of the community for decades. And I don't think there's ever been an issue. They run several small businesses. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they put a beautiful rock wall with some arborvitae around the tower to hide that as well. I don't think that was required, but it was something that they did. So that's all the comments I have.
Thank you, sir.
Linda Bensick, 7838 Hunting Lake Drive, and I have been sworn in. I just want to make the comment that no one disputes the fact that Mr. Victor has a right to build on that property. But the way that it's zoned, I believe there's 30 different businesses he could put in there, and that's all we're asking. Just, again, to stay within the guidelines that are there, and to, again, have to have this variance just so he could put more things in there. It just doesn't seem to be necessary. We're not depriving him of the chance to build. It's just build within the guidelines.
Okay, thank you. We have one more in the back here.
My name is Nancy Zimmerman. I live at 7890 Hunting Lake Drive. I just want to say, Quail Hollow Drive is at the complete opposite end of where we live and where all the trees and what we're discussing for the 25-foot variance. That's all I want to say.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I'm just gonna ask the board really quick. Before I close the meeting, do you have any questions for Mr. Victor from the board before I close the meeting? To the public? You guys are good?
I might have one question, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm asking. Mr. Victor, can you come up real quick? We just have one more question for you.
Mr. Victor, if you had to work within the 25-foot variance, or 25 feet the way it's written right now, how much smaller would the buildings have to be?
We would have to take off on this end probably 20 feet by 96, about 200 square feet, or yeah, 200 square feet.
Okay, so to work with it, leaving it with the 25-foot buffer, you would lose about 200 square feet on the big building.
Right.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That's 2,000 square feet.
2,000, yeah, that makes more sense. I thought 200 seemed kind of small.
That's tiny.
Okay. Well, if there's no further questions, the public hearing for application number 2023-142 is now closed to the public. Can I get a motion to approve variance application 2023-142?
So moved. Second.
Discussion for the board. Who would like to start it?
Well, I mean, I just think, you know, the board knows my view on allowing business to
business.
to do business. And I've run it through the Duncan factors, and it fails. It fails every time. There's not one Duncan factor that's in its favor, unfortunately.
Yeah, for me, the one that really, you know, I don't know. I struggle with is it substantial? I know it is, but again, it is.
In which direction?
Yeah, like it's okay. So 25 feet is maybe substantial, but what's really in that 25 feet? You know, quality of trees and woods. I don't know. We can, and everyone will have a different opinion on that. But does it affect the substantial neighborhood of the substantially affect the neighborhood? I think, you know, that's the one that kind of maybe lean towards.
I don't think this is about trees, because, you know, I was just by his lot today, and if he wanted to take that lot and turn it into a giant putting green, he can do that. He can mow down darn near every tree he wants there, and
except the 25.
except the 25, but still, yeah.
Yeah.
But he can turn it into a giant putting green and get rid of all the trees, right? But in that respect, as I'm looking at this building here, because 5,000 square feet for the Victor offices, and then the balance 8,500 for the two adjacent shops that may or may not go in there. So according to this, is that the parking PVD required is one space per 200 square feet of floor area, 17,000 square feet, which is 86 spaces. I just got high school math and I'm not a forensic accountant, but I'm pretty sure you could squish these spaces down here where the shop might be. So, I mean, I don't know about the whole cutting the building off. I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's other. Yeah, there's other ways to slice it to get it to fit.
Right.
And
So
keep the trees.
the point is, you know, we like the business in Concord, but we want to like it coming in the right way. Obviously, we don't want to kind of put too much on a lot and just say it's cool. And the trees, I mean, to his point, when the bulldozers come through, they cut the roots, everything dies, which is partially why we require landscaping, require them to put trees back in there. So I don't think it's about 10 feet of scrub trees that are in there. What it's about is too much on the lot. I'm not saying too much in the big building. I'm talking about the little one up front, because if the little one wasn't there, the big one would probably be acceptable, along with the parking spots being scooched over.
But I also think you could still develop the property without the 25 foot
Absolutely.
buffer variance and still fit a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah.
Not as much, but a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah, he can still build on it. It's zoned for him to build on it.
I don't know. Ryan, do you have anything you want to add?
I've just been going back and forth on substantial, kind of the first
Yeah.
point that you raised.
Yeah, because he's asking for the whole 25, but I think, yeah, that's, which in theory, if you look at that as a number, it's substantial. But I mean, the other one for me is how much does it affect? I think of driving down Cryle Road and, you know, is there 25-foot row of trees there? And even if some of them die, does it end up being different? You know, maybe that's the one too that doesn't line up.
You know, I think we should go through
the
factors, but before I say that, I mean, there's, you know, this property is zoned for a reason. And the property next to it just happens to be zoned for a different reason. And,
But that's what's driving, I believe, correct me, Heather, that's what's driving that buffer, is because they're different types of zoning. That's why there's a potentially a buffer there, that 25-foot buffer to separate the zoning, the different types of zoning.
That was part of the perimeter treatment that was approved when the overall PUD was approved.
Yeah.
At the time back in '86. So it was a buffer between different districts.
Right, and my point is, you know, we're getting asked, we always get asked to do things because someone else got it. And I just, you know, if you don't like the way the property's zoned, we're not the people you go to, okay? We're here to enforce things. We're here not to grant willy-nilly, and I think that's maybe what we've done in the past. And so let's go through the variances. So number one, or the Duncan factors. May the property be used for any other.
Wait a minute.
Sorry. May the property be used for any other use permitted in the zoning classification district? Yes. It's a request.
I'm sorry, excuse me. I think you're going through the use variance factors rather than
I'm sorry,
the area variance.
my bad. Will the property yield a reasonable return? And can there be a beneficial use of the property without the variance? Yes. Is the variance substantial? I think that it depends. Personally, I think it is. The board has
I think it is.
differed on that, but I think it is. Will the essential character of the neighborhood be altered? That's debatable. Personally, I don't think it will be, but will it affect government services? No. Do the property owner purchase property with the knowledge? Unfortunately, yes. Can the problem be resolved by some other manner? Yes. Will the variance preserve the spirit and the intent? And will substantial justice be done by granting the variance? I don't know that that's applicable. But I can tell you that I don't think a substantial injustice is being done by denying it. So I'm going, this is what we're given. We're given the law, we're given the standards, we apply them. If you guys disagree with me, I'm happy to discuss it. It's just, I think, Todd, you said it, we're trying to do too much. It's just too much trying to be shoehorned into this. And, you know, there's plenty of other ways to skin this cat.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the one that pushes me one way is that it can still be done. I mean, you know, we get a lot of variants. I mean, this is what we do, right? A lot of variances come our way, and what's the hardship or why they can't accomplish what they want to do? And I think maybe that's, you know, we're not seeing a clear hardship, Skip, right?
Well, yeah, we had one last meeting with the kid whose parents died, and he had to assume all their belongings and things. And
get rid of the belongings.
And I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
So.
Is there, before we go to vote, anything else anyone wants to add for discussion? Do you guys have anything else?
The township's growing. I live at the bottom of the hill here, and when I first moved in 2004, you could go out on Ravenna Road and stand there for 5 to 10 minutes and not a single car would go past. And now I sit there and my head's on a swivel because they both come flying down that hill, and it's just the way it is. I don't like it, but I love living here.
Yeah. All right.
Mr. Chairman, this was just brought to my attention that I don't know that the board has advised the applicant that in fact there's only 4 BZA members
I think
here.
we did.
I did at the beginning,
You
but
did?
I can.
I apologize, I didn't hear it.
Yeah. So I guess Todd, I can ask him, kind of check it. Just you understand that there's only 4 members, and you still need a 3-vote majority to approve your variance and conditional use permit, correct?
And that he can ask to.
Yeah, you could postpone to next. You could postpone it if you wanted 5, but you want to go forward with the meeting this evening, correct?
Pardon me?
We moving forward? We'll postpone.
How are we gonna do this?
So you've presented, so you're not withdrawing, you're asking for them to table it. even though
Right.
you've presented.
Table it, so there's all 5 members here.
So, can I ask, so when I brought it up, when we went through it, I know I said it, Yeah, you did.
You
Okay, but you wanted to still move forward. We didn't bring it up that time, but this time you do want to postpone and not go through with the variance and the conditional use permit?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, that is his right.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, legal counsel, how, at a follow-up public hearing, how does that logistically work since all the testimony has already been received and the public portion's been closed?
Oh, that's right, you did close. I mean, we could
Yeah,
just
it's
vote to
closed.
reopen the public hearing.
So I'll have to reopen this variance application to the public and then table it.
You can do that, yes.
And then we're not gonna talk about the conditional use permit then this evening.
Well, he's saying he doesn't want to continue,
Yeah,
correct? Right,
correct.
so then there is no conditional use tonight.
Well, the assumption is that he approved a 4 early on, and then he changed his mind. The question is, can the applicant change their mind at any point during the hearing prior to taking a vote, I guess?
Please be quiet.
Can they do that?
What was the change of mind? Because I mean, yes, he definitely, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there definitely was, there's discussion that there was,
Right.
that he knew there were 4 members, but I don't know that he knew that he can say, hey, listen, I don't want to proceed tonight because there's 4 members. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm just
Okay.
trying to clarify.
Okay, can I get a motion from the board to open back up variance application 2023-142?
So moved?
Second.
Is that the right way to do it? Okay, can I get a motion to table to the next month's meeting? Conditional use permit application 2023-27 and variance application 2023-142.
So moved?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is that okay? Yeah, okay. All right. I apologize, that was my mistake. And spending so much time this evening. We'll be back next month and get to see each other again. All right.
Question, a couple of documents were presented to you.
Just call Heather, we'll deal with that at a later time. If everyone wants to leave, please exit. We have another variance to review tonight.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to take a 5-minute recess or 2 minutes or no?
Might as well.
the 4-vote advisory, make sure he
Yeah.
either waives or
Oh, yeah,
tables.
yeah.
Waves or tables.
We're up. Mics are up. Don't swear.
Okay, next on our agenda is a variance application 2024-145. Mr. Richard M. Langle is requesting a variance from section 15.04A2E to permit a shed on the double frontage lot to be located 14 feet from the Hermitage Road right away in lieu of the 50 feet required. This is for the property located at 7235 North Point Court, parcel number 08-A-030-F-00-0140. Okay, come on up, sir.
Too many numbers.
My name is Rich Langle, 7235 North Point Court, and I've been sworn in.
And sir, you have 4 people up here. Would you like to move forward with the 4?
I most certainly will.
Okay.
Doesn't want to come back.
Well, go ahead and present your case.
I applied for a permit back in '09 and was approved, but at that time I didn't have the money to build the shed, or we wouldn't be here tonight. But I am moving forward with building it, and I don't know if zoning's changed. Obviously it must have, because they're calling it a double frontage now, which is that has always been the back of all the lots on my street, North Point Court. But this is the only place I can build this shed because of the lay of the land. My property kind of slopes all over the place, and because of what I already have done there, without cutting trees down, which I don't want to cut any trees down, this is the only place that I can put this outbuilding.
Yeah, it seems like you're gonna keep all of the trees, or you gotta cut 1 or 2 to fit.
I don't have to cut any down. I don't want to cut any trees down.
And
unfortunately, a bunch of my neighbors had to cut trees down because they had that bore.
Oh, ash
But
borer.
I have
Yeah.
locust trees. I'm the only property that has nothing but trees, and I want to leave it that way.
Okay, and then you're 14 foot from the property line with the shed, but you're still 30 feet from the edge of the road based on the sketch.
Correct.
So there's still a pretty good buffer from Hermitage there. Are
There
you
is.
planning on adding? Do you think are you planning on adding any landscaping around the back of the shed, or do you think the existing trees?
Well,
are-
last year I put a bunch of bushes because what happened was the ditch on the side of Hermitage on my property, the road was kind of giving way, so they dug out the ditch towards my property, which is still the easement, but they took out a lot of my vegetation, the bushes and the little trees, to repair the road, which I understand, and then they hydro-seeded, and they did take the dirt and put it on the roadside with some concrete. But no, I don't plan on cutting anything down. I want to plant more bushes to hide the road. In the summertime, I don't know if there's pictures I have. It's pretty awesome back there.
Yeah, it seems like you take pretty good care of the backyard.
So basically, that's the only, right now I have some scaffold set up with a tarp.
Yeah.
Because my garage is full and I got my lawnmower in there and some other things. And that scaffold's gonna go away very shortly.
I'm just gonna tell you now, what we're learning on this board, if this variance is approved, make that shed as big as you need it, because we don't want you coming back to try to make a second shed. Okay, we just
no
want
more
one shed.
Right.
That's fine.
Yeah, just one shed.
There was a shed on this property prior to me purchasing it, and the previous owners took it. So,
Yeah.
and it was in that same location.
Okay.
But that's
So,
pretty much all I have.
You live next to the guy that I see off Hermitage that has. the
I have palm
backyard-
trees in my
the-
yard.
The
too.
backyard oasis guy.
With the putting green and
Yeah, okay. Because he was in here
Last year.
Last year.
Both my neighbors
For the same thing, for the shed.
put up sheds in the last couple of years.
Right.
Mr. Maraglio's shed kind of looks more like the 9th hole. It's really tiny, but it's got an overhang, and it's pretty awesome because he likes to sit out there with his putting green and.
He's got quite a backyard.
Yeah, so I've done a lot in my yard over the last few years. I've been retired for 3 years, so that's kind of my hangout. You know, put a hammock up. I got plants that I put back there.
Okay.
But that's pretty much it.
Any other questions from the board?
We're going to move your love swing to your love seat. Where you want
No,
to
that's staying there. The swing's staying there. That picture is just showing that, where that, what I got circled is where that.
Oh,
scaffold-
okay. I thought you were putting it where the swing was. Disregard.
No, that swing is going to stay there.
Got it. Okay.
And the palm trees are gonna.
Are those real?
New ones every year.
Every year.
My neighbor goes to Florida and gets them. So I get a couple for free for helping him put his up around his pool. It's kind of a barter thing.
That's crazy, but okay.
But they're beautiful. They don't look good now, but it's like a Christmas tree. You cut them down and throw them away, and then every year you get a new one. So
there you go.
All right. You can be seated.
Okay.
Is there anyone here this evening that's either speaking for or against this appeal that'd like to come up? Okay, if there's no further questions, the public hearing for variance number, I don't have it in front of me, I moved it. 2024-145 is not closed to the public. Can I get a motion to approve variance 2024-145?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion, anyone have anything to add?
Short of that, I had independent recollection of his neighbor coming in for almost the exact same thing. It just, and forgive me if I may be not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure he came in for a shed. I don't know if you remember, Heather, this guy come in, but it's the same thing.
Well, and there was testimony that he said there was a shed on his property.
And they took it.
And they took it. The prior owner took it with them.
Back, right.
So, yeah.
So.
Why do you take a shed?
Must have been a nice shed.
I mean, it makes sense, and he's trying to fit it in a spot that's available.
Well, and again, I'm trying to run the Duncan factors. You know, I do this for everybody. And, you know, again, based upon his testimony, it seems like he wasn't even aware that there was even because of the prior shed being there, wasn't even aware that there was a.
Well, I applied in 2009.
Or I'm sorry, you applied it and it was approved.
There was a shed there. When I bought the house, the property was a repo bank-owned house. They took a lot of stuff.
Wow.
They took all light fixtures. They took doors. They took a toilet.
What?
They took the shed. There was a basketball setup. They cut the pole, and it's still there on the side of my driveway. But this is what happens when the bank takes over and people don't have respect for what isn't theirs anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
You got anything else?
Nope.
You good, Todd?
Yeah, I'm just reading through the factors, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think it affects the character of the neighborhood. I mean, there's a lot of trees, there's a buffer there.
And getting rid of the scaffolding temp shed is a plus.
Yes.
I can't imagine the neighbors are happy about the scaffolding shed.
Well, the scaffolding was just between the trees, and actually my wife said you gotta do something with that scaffolding. So I had other stuff that I had nowhere to put, so I built it, put a tarp over it, put everything in there.
Hell hath no fury, sir.
Well,
I'll tell you what, it held up for it's been up 3 years.
Well, I was going to say he can continue to do that.
Yeah.
And maybe put another one up.
Well, it's just a, it's a
I don't know.
scaffold. There's no.
Is this
scaffold will come down.
Is this accurate? Is this the shed?
Yes, that's a smaller version.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's gonna look good.
Better than a
Okay.
tarp.
Yeah. Well, then the question is on approval of variance application 2024-145. A yes vote approves the variance, a no vote does not. Heather, please call the vote.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Goling?
Yes.
Mr. Falkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Valente?
Yes. Sir, your variance has been approved. Congratulations, go build your shed. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from February 14th, 2024?
So moved. Second.
Were you here?
I was here.
Okay.
Any additions or deletions from either one of you?
Not me.
Anything? Okay.
My name's spelled right. That's all I care about.
The question is on approval from the minutes from February 14, 2024. Yes vote will approve the minutes, a no vote denies the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Director abstain, too?
Abstain.
Thank you. The minutes are approved as written. Our next meeting oh, never mind. We have the findings of fact and decision we have to review, Heather, correct, this evening?
Yes.
This again is, there's two items, and from the cases from last month. And the question is, we're gonna be signing them this evening. This will be now part of our procedures. Was there any additions or deletions to the findings and the facts of the decision from last month?
I think it meets and exceeds the impossibly high standards of writing.
Okay.
I'm just following what previous councils did. Truly.
Do we need a vote on any of those, or does this?
I
just sign
recommend a
it.
motion and a vote.
Okay.
For
gonna
each
sign
one
it,
individually, yes.
Yes, we're gonna sign it also. So can I get a motion to approve the findings and the facts from the February meeting as written?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
All right. Okay.
I would do them separate. I think that's fine. I would do the application number because they are separate.
Okay.
They're two separate findings of fact, right? We had
Yes,
two.
there are two. You're correct. All right, the facts, so can I get a motion to approve the findings of facts and decision in application number 2024-143? Get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Mr. Brian abstaining. The next would be a motion to approve the findings of fact and decision in application number 2024-144. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Brian abstaining from that one as well. There we go. We'll do much better next month on this. All right, so our next Board of Zoning Appeals meeting is April 10th, 2024. The Concord Township Board of Zoning Appeals for March 2024 is now closed.
Friday, we have to sign one of these?
I think you should.